Steve, you've had a very illustrious career. You've done several technology companies, Moxie Software, PowerShift, Vignette, App Economy. You worked with George W. Bush at the White House. You've had an illustrious career in technology, but why are you addressing health now?
I'm addressing health now and building NanoVision because health care overall to me means one thing mainly, which is keeping people healthy. And that moves into the very definition of cures. What is a cure? Cure is the ability to just monitor, detect, and maintain ways to keep people healthy. Well, in a lot of ways, that comes right back to technology.
But you have a bit of a background in the health and pharmaceutical industry, don't you? Isn't that right?
I do. That's right.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. Because you're not just coming at this cold, are you?
No. This has been really a lifetime of development for myself and a large part of our team.
Wasn't your father involved in the?
Absolutely,
in healthcare?
yeah. So I was. I grew up in a scientific environment. My father was a pioneer in the field of immunology and biochemistry and genetics, and moved around quite a bit. He was early faculty and R&D at.
So you grew up around this stuff.
At Stanford and many other institutions. So yes, I literally grew up in the laboratories. Where I learned software and technology was in laboratories.
Why do you think it is that the software industry seemed to sort of accelerate ahead and seem to become so different from the, shall we say, call it, just for want of a better phrase, the science industry?
Well, I think a couple reasons. One is the software industry and the tech industry has followed a path that has kind of modeled off of Moore's Law, and in some cases Metcalfe's Law, which gave over the last 40 plus years a ramp, a constant on-ramp into new levels of performance and new stages on a progressive basis for how to develop solutions to a vast range of business and vertical and horizontal problems. So the ability to do that has advanced. Science itself, the basic model for theorizing new programs, if you will, hasn't really changed that much. Now, there's brilliant people, there's some fantastic companies, governments are involved, of course, and it's not that there hasn't been some huge advancements. I referenced the Human Genome Project. That was a massive advancement, and yet, as a field in total, the way that cures and therapeutics and analytics are developed is still much slower.
But you say that though, but we've got well, let's be honest, at this point, thousands of years of the concept of peer review of the scientific methodology that's come down for many generations, that is now effectively the established way of doing science. Why is it that you think an approach like yours or an approach like that the technology industry can bring to this space can have such a transformative effect when you still do need, let's be honest, you still do need those checks and balances?
You absolutely need checks and balances. You don't want to sacrifice health. You don't want to sacrifice the safety of people and,
exactly.
and the very basic concept even of medicine, do no harm. But at the same time, we need to advance that into do some good and do some good as fast as you can while not sacrificing safety. If software was following the same rules, the equivalent of peer review, which is like code review, would still be people gathering in rooms together in individual meetings instead of having automated testing, and we would not have today's modern technology industry or software industry.
One of the points you seem to be making is that that science or the healthcare industry has become too tactical. It's developing technologies to go after one particular health issue and seems to be removing itself from R&D, I suppose.
Well, what's happening...
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the broader healthcare industry, you want to divide it up into a few pieces. There's those that deliver care, and there's those that develop completely novel new innovations that provide care and cures. And the ability to provide healthcare is only as good as the cures available to you. And so if we don't go back and completely change the way that you develop cures to have them advance at a much more rapid rate and a much more scalable model, than you have, we can only continue to provide the cures that are available. And that's the Achilles heel here.
The video you showed of computer vision being able to recognize people's faces and then translating that into recognizing pathogens going through the bloodstream and things like that. Surely that's a bit fanciful, isn't it?
It's just as fanciful as imagining ride-sharing services and self-driving cars. Meaning it is and it isn't. Is it the way things are done today? Absolutely not. Is it the way we'll be able to do those in a relatively short period of time if we actually use the integration of multiple technologies and develop some novel capabilities like we're doing with our NanoCure platform? Absolutely, it's doable then. It just, the fact that it hasn't been done doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done or that it can't be done.
What do you actually mean by the phrase self-driving cures? Because that sounds a little bit gimmicky, doesn't it? But what's the underlying meaning of that? Is it the sense that I'm monitoring my own health, or that you're taking big data out of the sensors that your ability to apply in the health scenario?
So self-driving cures is just thinking of it as the basic processes of monitoring health conditions, whether it's our own health, the conditions around us, right, or the advancement of certain disease states or conditions,
right.
Monitoring it, having the analytics, having diagnostic capabilities, and having cure capabilities that are a continuous process. That is self-driving cures.
Right.
Why is it that we can drive our car and know when we have that we're low on fuel, that one of our tires or another is losing air, and at what rate, and what's going on in some basic processes in our engine, and we have no ability to do that for ourselves, individually or collectively. So you begin by adding the technology to connect in, monitor health conditions on an ongoing basis, as well as monitoring the things around us that connect in health information.
So you get this continuous virtual loop where
that's where you go.
In the car scenario, it manages to drive itself, and in the health scenario,
that's right.
It manages to keep yourself healthy. But so it's about keeping yourself healthy. But what then? Well, let's get down to the sort of nitty gritty of it. Then is NanoVision putting sensors on the body? Is it a lab solution? Is it purely aimed at the pharmaceutical industry? Tell us a little bit more exactly what it is.
NanoVision and our NanoCures platform will go from the chip all the way up through the data level.
So you're going to make chips?
We're designing a generation of chips with ARM,
right,
which is our partner on this, which has a 99% market share of all mobile devices in the world.
The huge, vast chip maker, yes.
ARM, the chip design company, which is owned by SoftBank and SoftBank Vision Fund.
So they're a big partner of yours.
They're a huge partner of ours and very important partner. And what we're doing there is we've developed a set of designs to bring AI and sensory capability down to the chip level, bring the cost and form factor to where we can drive it out in the marketplace on a very ubiquitous basis, from smartphone technology to the ability to attach those levels of chips onto and into everyday devices that are going from hospitals to homes.
So there are companies out there already putting AI on chips, supposedly. What is going to be different about NanoVision's design?
The difference is that we're focused on health and starting with molecular data level.
Right.
And that's the fundamental difference. So the thing about molecular data and what that is made of is that is literally the building blocks of life that we deal with. It's cells, it's microbes, it's genetic markers, it's chemical markers, it's biomarkers, it's ambient conditions. And we talk about these things in an abstract way, but in a very practical way. It's literally just measuring and monitoring and capturing data that we are surrounded by or made of 24 hours a day. And right now, we just don't have access to it.
Well, we've been capturing data for 20, 30, 40, 50 years using computers without the need for the blockchain. What's different now about using the blockchain in this scenario, though? And what, are you just jumping on the blockchain bandwagon?
Well, blockchain is an architecture, and it is, I equate it to a fundamental architecture of next generation internet, in the same way that TCP/IP was a fundamental architectural driver from a communication structure standpoint of first generation internet. Now, TCP/IP was, especially early on, was pretty ugly. It was not perfectly defined. There were many different versions of that. There's a lot of ways to define how you use that and how you integrate that, but it was common enough, and it evolved very rapidly to form a connectivity base that drove the internet in terms of mass adoption. To me, blockchain's in the same place that TCP/IP was for early internet. It is early. It is going to evolve. There will be many versions of it, and yet there's enough commonality that the basic tenets of blockchain, where you have immutable data, which drives trust on decentralized ledgers, which capture immutable data around where content was captured, who captured it, who touched it, what the chain of activity was from inception into continuous use. And that is a fundamental change in the model of sharing data.
So walk me through the life cycle of this. You've got some sensors. Eventually, you got this whole thing up and running. Some sensors is tracking somebody's body. The sensor picks up a strange antibody movement or something. Is that scenario? And then suddenly it's registered on your blockchain, and bang, all the sensors start firing and lights go off. Is that right?
That's a big part.
I mean, obviously that's a simplistic idea.
I mean, it gets down to capturing that kind of a data.
Right.
It's also capturing environmental data. So moving from hospitals to entertainment environments. I mean, things like cruise lines are floating petri dishes, right? And people know.
Thank you for that vision.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm sure I'm going to get a call from Carnival today offering some free cruises. But, but I mean, bottom line is, you know, we halfway joke about it, right? Oh my God, I was on the flight, somebody was coughing a couple rows behind me.
Don't go to the breakfast buffet.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And we just need to make the invisible visible and known. But actually moving to where we're capturing and making available, so then we can at least do something about it.
So just for those people in the room who aren't familiar, there's the whole blockchain movement came originally out of Bitcoin, and then Ethereum was invented. Both are mined blockchains. Is your blockchain sitting on an Ethereum blockchain? Is it sitting in a private chain? Just give us a little bit of a technical background on that.
So the design of our Cure chain is more of a private chain.
Your Cure chain, as you call it, yeah. It's a private chain.
It's a private chain, and part of the reason for that is the design right down to the chip level of actually authenticating the data and capturing the data is something that doesn't need to go through a mining process, which is energy intensive, and that's the downside of structures like blockchain. When you're doing things like minting, mining currencies like blockchain, like Bitcoin itself. So this is all about the data. It's about capturing and authenticating the data. It's about aligning that with incentives and value structures.
I see. So you're putting the data on a blockchain, you're not actually needing to do any mining, as it were. You're using the distributed ledger technology aspect.
That's right.
Surely, I mean, it sounds like it's a lot of work. You're doing chips, you're doing blockchain, you're applying AI, you're doing cloud. You're spinning a lot of plates here. I mean, how on earth can you really concentrate and produce something that has a real effect?
We are focused on a stack of technology. Some of what we're inventing, other is technology that's being invented and developed in the world, and we're integrating that in. It is very similar to developing a new platform like an iPhone or a Tesla, where the combination of those technologies, several of which we're originating ourselves and others we're integrating in, result in a platform change and the ability to bring to market something that didn't exist previously and that becomes a game changer. And the game changer for us in this platform is to enable thousands, hundreds of thousands of other healthcare developers, scientists, researchers, biotech companies, pharma companies to use the services, which is the data itself, powered by from the chip up and the gathering capability onto a level of simplified services so that those smart, talented teams can actually go develop their own versions of cures to tens of thousands of disease states and sick and sickness and even general wellness capability that don't exist today.
So really, you're trying to create a platform on which other people can innovate, let 1,000 flowers bloom, as it were.
Totally agree.
Right.
It's probably, you know, from a standpoint of what do you want a platform to do? You want a platform to enable many others to do things that they either could not do before or they had to do custom from scratch each, like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Services, many other ranges of services today provide you the ability to do what just a few years ago you would have to completely build from scratch, own and manage yourself, and now you initiate
Now you use your platform,
services.
and then you can innovate.
That's right.
So are you going to be B2B or enterprise focused only, or will there be NanoVision services inside my home or wearables? Will there be a consumer aspect to this? What is it?
I think where the market moves in the model these days for services, including our NanoCure platform, but we've seen it in similar sectors, is there's not a big difference. So if I'm using Amazon Web Services from my home, and or it's powering Alexa, and or it's a corporate environment or even the government running on it, it's still using the same services.
Right.
Now, how much do you consume and where and how do you use that certainly varies. But other than that, they're common services.
What's the low-hanging fruit here? What you talk about Cures, the Cure platform. Where's the prevention?
So two
Is
things.
it prevention, a cure, or prevention oriented?
Prevention is part of cures. Monitoring, having ongoing diagnostics to know what
Right.
potential dangers are present, having the information about those, for example, a runaway superbug, and understanding more about that basic structure. That goes from the ability to monitor, prevent, as well as rapidly develop things like new vaccines or actual full cures. Right? So the same information is needed, and you're going to have to monitor, you're going to have to collect the data on those from vast input sources and move those into a super accelerated lab. I mean, lab becomes from a small number of proprietary labs to the world is our laboratory.
Assuming all of this comes together, I know that you're fundraising at the moment. Let's talk about that in a second. What do you think you could cure first?
The areas that we're attacking first are, as you described, kind of some low-hanging. Unfortunately, there's too much low-hanging fruit because there's a lot of very basic conditions. But we are teamed up with scientific development teams using already the early phases of our platform to advance influenza, just basic flu, and we're talking about full therapeutics that will work across influenza A and B and really all forms, a range of cancers.
That would make you a smash hit in the UK, of course.
That's not a bad start. I mean,
Right.
if we are dramatically accelerating the ability to have the prevention and treatment safely of flu, that right there, this year alone, we had in this flu season that we're just coming out of, it's still active.
Yeah.
4,000 deaths a week
It's very
from
serious.
the flu.
Yeah.
Very serious. NanoVision and our Cures platform is a fundamental change in developing and doing the hard work to do everything from develop a new generation of chip technology with AI on a chip, right on up through the molecular data platform, and the packaging up of ranges of cure acceleration services to bring to market. We're working with groups of scientists. We're working with the most successful chip development company in the world, and that's all transparent in what we're doing with all those partners. And so there's really nowhere here to hide if you were going to hide anything. If anything, we are making sure that we're availing ourselves of not only our expertise, but some of the greatest partners in the world.
Yeah.
And as far as we're concerned, anybody and anything that can help develop this faster, we want to partner with them because the stakes are very high. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, we're suffering from areas that need dramatic advancement, and we just can't go fast enough.
Well, I'm going to see if anyone would like to ask some questions in a second, but let me just ask you quickly, where is the company now? What's the roadmap for the next couple of years? Your fundraising, what's going on right now?
Where we are right now, we're several years into development and design of the NanoCures
Amen.
platform. 4 years, 4 to 5 years from the inception.
So you've been in stealth mode?
We've been in stealth mode. We've been working hard.
Right.
We've been focused. We've been working hard. We've been building partnerships. The partnership with ARM, for example, several years in the making, concluded in the last year. We're into the next phase of design and development, and we have a roadmap to bring out a generation of chips, which will never stop. They'll just keep a generation.
What do the next couple of years look like?
The next couple of years go from, in 2018, using our chip in simulation mode. Chip simulators actually can do real work. They're not printed out on silicon, but the basic design lets you advance things already, like dramatic analytic capability using AI in simulation mode, which is for real, meaning you can take real data in. So we're doing that this year.
Okay.
By 2 years, by 2 years
sort of
out.
sandboxing the trials to begin with.
Right away.
First,
That's
and
right.
then next year.
So in the next 2 years, we'll have a generation of chip out in the marketplace that is actually delivered as an embedded new chip. Along the way, we'll take our early generation of beta chips, moving into devices that we call nanobots, which are sensing capabilities that can move out into hospitals and environments over the next year, and begin to collect a whole range of basic germ, pathogen information, ambient conditions, which we don't have today.